Title: Entitled woman takes my niece's Baby Yoda I made for her. Recently my sister and her husband came to really like Baby Yoda, the child in The Mandalorian. I crochet and made them a Baby Yoda, something my 4-year-old niece liked as well. I ended up making another Baby Yoda in purple, my niece's favorite color specifically for her. Image here. Yesterday I was babysitting my niece and we went to Walmart to pick up some snacks and ingredients for dinner. My niece insisted on bringing her Baby Yoda with us. It happened fast. While I was picking through bags of spinach, my niece, who was in the shopping cart, began screaming and crying. Despite not having any children yet, I am more than a little of a mama bear and instantly abandoned the spinach to check on her. My niece was halfway out of the cart, still screaming, pointing at a woman who was walking away with a very familiar purple Baby Yoda in her cart, heading towards the registers. I picked up my niece and stormed after this woman, abandoning my shopping cart as she turned into a register. She had put her things on the checkout conveyor belt when I got there, most of her things already scanned, and she was trying to discuss prices for the Baby Yoda. It's not in the best of shape and the price indicated it was $12.99. Could you give me a discount? I marched over, my sobbing niece in arm, and snatched the Baby Yoda from the surprised clerk who was checking for a tag. The entitled woman screeched as she grabbed at the toy as well. How dare you! I'm buying this for my daughter. She loves purple and those other ones are all green. This belongs to my niece. I made it for her. I snarled. Liar. You're just angry I got to it first. A manager must have been attracted by the noise of screams because he approached, a less than pleased look on his face. Is something wrong here? The entitled woman pointed at me with her free hand. This woman is trying to take this doll I'm trying to buy for my daughter. I was still trying to keep a grip on the Baby Yoda. I told you I made this. I doubt the Yodas sold here are made from yarn. The manager called security after a moment of trying to mediate and I was forced to let go of the Yoda to talk to the guard. Luckily, I like to take pictures of my projects that I finish, so it only took a moment for me to pull out my phone and bring up a picture of the Baby Yoda when I had finished it, namely the picture on the link above. We both turned back to the cash register and my niece began to cry again when we saw the woman was gone and the manager approached us with a hard look. I realize that those toys are very popular, but you shouldn't try to steal one of a specific color from someone. I held up my phone, picture still up, and saw the man's face drain of color when he saw the toy in an environment that was very much not his store, but the damage was already done. He had sold my niece's toy to the entitled woman and she had left. Title: M pushes me in my wheelchair away from my family. A few years ago I was living in Vegas and an M literally wheeled me away from my family. I have a number of health issues and after a few botched surgeries and neurological damage I was bedridden. I never left my bed except for doctor appointments. I hadn't been out at all for 2.5 years. I had worked really hard on my daily physical therapy and my balance had greatly improved. My family came out for a visit. My husband was stationed at Nellis AFB, and I was so excited to surprise them with my improvements. I could stand and walk and was actually wearing pants. To celebrate, I wanted to go see the fountains at the Bellagio. For most people this is a nice outing, but for me this was years in the making. I was nervous I might get overtired and lost in the fast-moving crowds, so we had to bring my wheelchair. We knew the schedule for the fountains and arrived super early to secure a spot in front where I could see from my chair. It was such an important moment for all of us. We lined up by the fence and no sooner did the show start I felt this jerking on my wheelchair. I thought maybe someone had tripped on me and I immediately looked up to apologize. I was pretty self-conscious and ashamed of being out in a wheelchair in such a big crowd. When I glanced up to apologize, I see this woman with a small child on her hip using one hand to literally pull me away from the fence. Because she was only using one hand, she spun me completely around to face the street. I was stunned. I could hear everyone reacting to the fountain show and here I was looking dumb, awkwardly facing a bunch of strangers. I yelled for my husband but he couldn't hear me over the noise. I looked behind me and this woman had plopped her child up onto the guardrail. never made eye contact with me, never said one word to me, and had treated me like a piece of luggage. I tried to stand up, but the people around me had crowded me so much I didn't have room to push my chair back enough. I desperately looked around at the strangers in front of me, hoping someone who had seen what happened would help. It then dawned on me that this was a huge friend group. They all began nudging me aside, further and further away from my family. It all happened so fast. I found myself pushed into the walking area where people who weren't stopping to watch the fountain show were quickly trying to walk past. People couldn't see me through the crowd and were stumbling past me. I couldn't see my family anymore and was trying hard to push myself up out of my chair the way my physical therapist had taught me. I feel someone grabbing my chair again and I panicked. I start yelling, "No, please. No," and then realized it was my husband. He had glanced to check on me and to take a picture of me being out for the first time, and I was gone. He had to fight his way through the crowd, the same family group, to find me. I burst into tears. I don't know why, but it was like all the trauma from the last few years hit me all at once. I told him they had pushed me away. And after putting it together, my husband was pissed. He turned to this group of people and demanded to know who had pushed me away. By this time the fountain show was pretty much over. The group initially just ignored my husband like they had me, until I pointed out the woman with her child as the culprits. My family confronted her, nicely I might add, and tried to explain why a wheelchair is an extension of a person, etc. She at first pretended like she didn't speak English. But I had heard them talking amongst themselves in English while they pushed me into the walking area, and I told my husband as much. She then gave up that act and told my family about how I was in their way and probably couldn't see anyway, and the man with her claimed, in a raised voice, that in their country they don't take their shameful family members out in public. To which my husband responded, "If that were true, none of you would be here." I was maybe even more shocked by his last sentence than being wheeled away. I managed the courage to tell him that what he said was bullshit and that I'm sure people in your country are actually kind and would be proud if I was their daughter. I remember the exact words I said because later I was very proud that I stood up to them. The group sort of collectively scoffed, spoke to one another quickly in what I think was Hindi, and slowly walked away as if nothing happened. Title: I gave my mom one chance to see her only grandchild and she turned it down because it wasn't a good enough offer. I have a bad relationship with my mother, to say the least. She has been terrible to my partner and I my entire pregnancy. I wrote an update about the things she was doing, like building a nursery in her room when I told her she wasn't going to see my baby, a few days ago, but I finally got a response from her regarding the one viewing we were going to allow for her and I just had to post about it. Due to the virus, our pediatrician recommended that we quarantine the newborn for 2 months. My mother knew this, I told her many times. She refused to stay home, to get tested, to wear masks, or do anything really. It's her way or the highway in her mind, but not in reality. And boy did she get a wake-up call today. As of recently, I gave her the opportunity to view the baby through a car window. She seemed fine with it and said she would let me know when she was available. She was abiding to my boundaries. Quite shocking. Then 2 weeks pass and I hear nothing from her. Until this morning. She asks me when she can see her baby, and that it's almost been 3 weeks and she hasn't held her. I laugh. I knew this was going to happen. I tell her she is in quarantine and no one but me and her dad can touch her. That she can see her through a window or not at all. She responds, "I think I'll pass on the window, let me know when I can hold my baby." I laugh again. This woman will not stop. I'm fed up. My pregnancy hormones are gone, my baby is here, we are moving away in a matter of weeks and she will never find us. If she thinks she has any power here, she is dead wrong. So I send one last message to her and say, "Okay, no window then, maybe when she's 18 she will reach out to you." Title: Mom doesn't care about pandemic, she wants to go to lunch. My mom lives with me. Her sisters called to invite her to go out to eat. Now we have all been social distancing in my house because my mom and my oldest daughter are in high-risk categories. I don't feel right telling her she can't go, but I've pointed out several times that it is dangerous, that everyone misses seeing people, but maybe she should reconsider. Her answer was, but it sounds fun and my sister is in worse health than me. I asked her if her sister got COVID and died after this lunch if she would be okay since they had a fun lunch. No, of course not. But still going. My kids are scared for their older sister and have kept trying to talk to my mom about it. My oldest has been crying all day because she doesn't want her to go, but my mom doesn't care, because she wants to have a fun lunch with her sisters to tell the same 50-year-old stories. I'm so angry and stressed out about our family getting sick because we are in a hot spot city that had 2 days of record high cases last week.